as promised, I was going to try to start making some tutorials again. Believe it or not, teaching in person and teaching beginners and teaching kids, that is really what fuels my brain with the most ideas for tutorials because, I can spit out all the tutorials I want on YouTube. I can, read questions in the comments and try my best to answer them in a video. But it's not quite the same as seeing the bodies in front of me and, seeing how their body adjusts to corrections or the kinds of mistakes that they're making. So right now what I've been focusing on with the kids, the ages anywhere from ages 8 to 13, I'm really trying to work on their posture. So if you are a teacher teaching kids and not sure how to explain these things to them, alternatively, if you're a beginner or an adult beginner and you just need another way to think about the posture and the sacrum and the tailbone and the tummy and all of that stuff, well, this tutorial is for you. When I'm teaching the kids, they're all in different stages of development. So, I have some like really, really skinny kids and I have some kids that are a little bigger. They love to come in with like their midriff showing and they just walk in here and they just like stick their tummy out. Whether they're skinny or chubby, it doesn't matter. They all just like love to have their belly showing. And they love to stand like this. And when I'm trying to tell them to like push their tummy in or to like tuck it in or something, like I'm trying to get them to like stop sticking out the tummy, stop sticking out the rib cage. And so I was correcting this one little girl, and what does she do? She just takes her tank top and pulls it over her stomach. Like, she thought that was it. Like, she thought all she had to do was literally hide her stomach under her clothes. And I was like, okay, I'm not getting through to these kids. So, like, what can I do? I need them to get rid of this, and I need them to get rid of this. So, I came up with a new way to think about it. So most kids, even young kids, they know what their tailbone is. And if your kids don't know what their tailbone is, you can just tell them, oh, your tailbone, it's the bottom of your spine. If we were fuzzy animals and we had a tail, this is where it would come out. So when we're doing ballet, you have to imagine that your tail is always pointing down to the floor. So by telling them, imagine that your tail is pointing down to the floor, this does a couple of things. This gets them to tuck in their butt and they're not even realizing it. And the fact that you say down to the floor, say tail down to the floor rather than saying tucking, because a lot of the times when we say tuck the butt or tuck the pelvis or tuck the tailbone, it's going too far forward. Like if you could draw a line from your tailbone when you tuck, it's actually going like too far forward. We don't want a tuck. We don't want an arch. We want something neutral. So when I tell the kids tailbone pointing down to the floor, almost between your heels, that really helps them. Like telling them to keep the tail down really helps them. So I'm sure most of you know this already, but some of you may not. Some of you may have never heard it described that way before, or some of you might just need a refresher or need a way to teach it to your own little students. So we got the butt pelvis part out of the way. Now what do I do about this tummy? How do I get the kids or the adults, anywhere, how do I get people to like tuck in their tummy without telling them to tuck in their tummy, suck in their tummy, hide the tummy, because that almost sounds like fat shaming, and I am not about that. Like I know the feeling is to tuck it in, but when you're telling like a little kid or even a teenager who's, going through changes with their body, they're going to think, oh, my tummy is too fat. That's not what I want. I never want anything like that going through a child's head. So I had to come up with this other weird thing. I said, have you ever gotten a really big hug from a little kid and they hug you so tight around your waist that you feel like you can't move? because they're giving you such a big tight hug around the tummy, and you can't move, you can't go forward, you can't go backwards because they're just hugging you so tight. And the kids, even the young kids, the 8-year-olds, you know, I guess they have like a little 3-year-old or a 4-year-old that has hugged them once in their life. They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, so we have to focus on the big hug around the tummy and our tail pointing down all the time. And you guys, this solved so many problems. When I first got these kids, you know, they were standing like this. I'll turn a little bit so you can see they were standing like this, especially in 5th position. You know, like it's so hard to like tuck, put the tailbone down in 5th position. You know, it's so, like they all want to stand like this all the time, no matter what they're doing. Tendus, la la la, you know, anything that they're doing. But just reminding them of those two things in every single combination. Like, yes, it's annoying because I have to say it every time. It's almost like the whole bar is focusing on these two things. But when I tell them and they think about it, their body changes. Like, they look professional all of the sudden. And this is kind of coming back to, it sort of ties into the butt. You know, the butt has like its own extra thing, and I do talk to the kids about the butt all the time. And like, I told them to like grab their own butt cheeks and bring them forward. And you know, like I do all that butt muscle teaching with the kids. But just reminding them tailbone down, like tailbone pointing down, and big hug around the waist. All of a sudden, everything got so still down here. You know, it solved the wobbling problem. It solved the butt sticking out problem. They do still sometimes open their hips a little bit. So I kind of tell them, imagine that your hips are like the headlights of a car. They always have to point forward even when your leg is going to the back, because like if you twist your car, you broke your car. You have no car anymore. So like there's all these little like things I have to come up with to make it make sense to the kids. But for you adult beginners or adult intermediates or like anybody that has been needing help on hip stabilization, when you focus on keeping the tailbone just like straight down and like a tight hug around your waist, it just kind of makes sense. It's like everything falls into place and it eliminates so many wobbles, especially in port de bras. You know, when the kids do port de bras, they think that this is bending backwards. They think that this is bending backwards. So I'll tell them, even when you bend backwards, tailbone down to the floor, big tight hug around your tummy. Your tummy cannot bend. You can only bend from up here, from above the hug. And all of a sudden, they're bending from up here, from underneath the shoulder blades. And this carries into so many other things at the bar. You know, there are so many things that we're concentrating on. And sometimes, you know, we'll see our hips wobble, you know, especially the standing leg. And we're always trying to prevent that. We're always trying to stay right on top of the standing leg. We don't want to see like things shifting when we're moving. And part of what allows that shift to happen is when we accidentally start ignoring the butt and ignoring the tailbone. And it's like once the tailbone goes up, that's when we start getting hip wobbliness. So if the butt thing is not clicking for you and the tucking thing is not working for you, because honestly, when you're tucked too far, that's not stable either. It's really hard to like keep an artificial tuck. It's not about a tuck, because when you tuck, you're adding another curve to your spine, when really we want to be eliminating the curves in the spine. So just tailbone down, big hug around the waist. That, for some reason, just stabilized them so much. And, you know, it's just like, you know, it's just one of those mind-blowing moments where it's like, wow, that's all I have to do to like get it to click for the kids. So I figured if it's good enough for the kids, it's good enough for you. You know, we always hear teachers say tuck, squeeze the butt, belly under, suck it in, whatever, and it's like, you can do all those things, but it might not necessarily be the correct thing to do, or like all of those tips might not be like what your brain needs to like get it right. So that's it for today. I know it's not like a super in-depth technique tutorial where I'm going over a step, but like even me, like even when I think about this at the bar, because you know, like I get lazy, I get tired, you know, sometimes I'm at the bar and I just let things go and I don't care, and then I realize I'm so unstable right here, and then I was like, you know what, I should practice what I preach. If I, you know, I'm giving these kids these corrections, but it applies to me too. It applies to everybody. So that's it. Just my little notes on tucking the pelvis and keeping the tailbone down. It's really not a tuck, okay? If you take away anything from this lesson, it's not a tuck, because when we tuck, you know, also like all this stuff happens, like, you know, the weight goes forward into the front of the knees point forward, we're rolling over on the front of our foot. It's not a tuck, it's just down. It's just tailbone down, like up, just down, like you're flat against a wall. And then the hug around the tummy. If you're ever trying to tell kids or teenagers to suck in or tuck in or hide the tummy, and you don't want to cause like body dysphoria or eating disorders or stuff like that, I think telling them a big hug, like a big hug around the tummy, somebody's squeezing you so tight, they love you so much that you can't move. Your tummy can't move, and it really does help them. Like that just those two little corrections made them look so different. So if it helps you, if you remember those two things when you're dancing and it helps you look different, then great, the tutorial was good. If you knew this stuff already and you're like, duh, Victoria, like I've been doing this for years, then like, okay, sorry, maybe you'll like the next tutorial better. But that was it. I'm just excited to share that little thing that like clicked for some of my students, and hopefully it clicks for some of you. So thank you so much. I don't know when I'll see you again, but I'll be excited when I do. Stay salty.